Inside the plane, little brother had finished tearing up Tommy's seat and was busy ripping into the salmon. Blood, scales, red bits of fish spattered on the window. Bills that had been sewn into the coat's lining fluttered like leaves. Tommy picked himself up, turned back, and opened the passenger door. Little brother, the king salmon, firmly in his mouth, bounded up the ramp, crossed the boardwalk into 2 strides, and ran up into the woods. Everyone could hear him breaking through the brush, turning over stones. No one offered to go after him. No one called, no one whistled for the dog to come back. They acted as if he were just another spell of bad luck that had happily passed them by. Clive clutched the ripped bundle of his coat and jumped down onto the floats. He had cut his hand on one of little brother's teeth and was slathered with drool, feathers, and large denomination bills, and his own blood. Miles pointed to the water beside the dock. A slobbery clump of $100 bills floated toward the Aleutian Islands in Japan. I guess that would be your money, he said to his brother. Miles, Clive said softly, but with great joy, opened his arms wide. Come here and hug me, you big lug. Miles shook his head slowly from side to side. Behind him, over his shoulders, trees trembled on the hillside where the big brindled dog was charging up the mountain with the dead fish in his mouth. The thing that I've learned is that the devices of fiction about the people that chase and solve crimes, the devices of fiction are a purely literary device. The tarnished knight, the fallen angel of the police officer or the private eye that goes out and chase crime, they're wonderful literary devices. I met Michael Chabon once when he came to Sitka along with the New York Times reporters, and when he did a little research. His wife is a mystery writer, I asked him why he chose a private eye for his book, The Yiddish Policeman's Union, and he said he always wanted to write a private eye novel because the private eye is just such a handy device. A crime is such a handy device because you can send a private eye anywhere, or a police officer. You can send them anywhere. They can cross lines of class, of ethnicity. You can send them into, they can be the outsider within an inside group. They can be the insider in a corrupt group. You can send them anywhere, make them do anything. They're the guy or the woman or the person, they're the person that against all reason will go down those steps into the dark, creepy basement. They'll have a reason to do it. You can give them a reason to do it. They'll go down those steps. And you won't say, oh, why don't go down those steps? But they'll go down those steps, and they'll have a reason to do it. The private eye is just a great storytelling device for storytellers. Right? The character, the reason the character evolved in such a recognizable form, the fallen angel, the drunkard who has a problem with authority, often the man who is flawed, hates his boss, I'm too old for this, and think of McNulty drunk with his friend Bunk, the black man and the white man, puking into the streets of Baltimore. That has a long and noble literary tradition that comes from Milton, all the way from Milton and the fallen angel of Satan, all the way through Lord Byron, up through Edgar Allan Poe, all the way to literary times, and it's a character that has evolved in literature that is there that we've used to explore moral and questions that we fear to answer. They're the people of the shadows, part of the shadows. that come out of the shadows themselves to explore the things that we're frightened of: murder, mortality, sexual deviancy, sex itself. You know, they're the people that come from the shadows to bring truth to light a lot of times. So these storytelling people, they're literary devices, right? These characters are literary devices.
And joining me in the studio is John Straley, an Alaskan author who has just published a new novel, Cold Storage, Alaska. The book release is coming up this Tuesday, and he's here to tell us a bit about it. Welcome to Morning Edition, John.
Good morning, Melissa.
Well, let's see. It's been quite a while since you last published a book. I think it was in 2008.
Yeah, it has been a while.
It's been a while. And what brought you back? 2008, the last book you published was
The Big
Both Ways,
Mm-hmm.
and also a compilation of poetry that same year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then you had a bit of a lag time, but apparently you fought to get this book, Cold Storage, Alaska, published. What happened with that?
Well, I had written Cold Storage, Alaska years and years ago, and before I wrote The Big Both Ways, actually. And I had an agent back then, and she shopped it around, and I shopped it around, meaning I sent it around to publishers. And back then, there wasn't much interest in it. The feedback I got from publishers was it wasn't violent enough. It didn't have a strong enough revenge ending where everybody gets shot up in the end, and it wasn't. One of the reactions was, "Well, I don't see the big deal about this. This is just about a bunch of oddballs in this little Alaskan town," and that kind of disappointed me. So I put it in my drawer and wrote The Big Both Ways, which was a historical crime book, but at the end, sort of, maybe a passive-aggressive move, I had them end their journey. It was a sort of a journey book up the Inside Passage. I had them end their journey in Cold Storage, Alaska. The little girl and whose name is Annabelle, who had the little cockatiel, who lost her cockatiel on that trip, and her anarchist aunt, and the sort of the goofball carpenter. They all end up in Cold Storage, Alaska. And then Cold Storage, Alaska, the novel, starts in the last few years of the Clinton administration, with Annabelle as a older woman, and it's the story of her family, and it's more of a classic kind of screwball comedy with a crime element, but really nobody gets murdered in Cold Storage, Alaska, this new novel. Yeah, there's going to be a really nice review in the New York Times crime section coming out this Sunday, and she said, I got a sneak peek at it. She says, John Straley writes sweet crime novels about sad people. And these people aren't just sad, but I think what I take from that is I have empathy for the problems of all my characters, and I just can't bear to solve their problems by just blowing them all away at the end. It just doesn't make sense to me. And I've spent too long as a defense investigator to just solve the hero's problems by just killing everybody off at the end. Also, I worry about how, who's going to do all that paperwork and who's going to pick up all that stuff, and in a small town, if you just kill everybody off, who's going to be left to write the next chapter? So.